Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're a new subscriber, welcome. My name is Andy B. I am a content creator, journalist, podcaster, and a loud nerd. And as I've been saying in some of my last few videos, if for those who have watched it, I'm trying to do more things on my YouTube channel, trying to do new types of content because I know that usually I just put up interviews on my channel and then I disappear for a year. But 2021 is the year of change. And with me today, if you haven't seen her before, you should go subscribe to her channel. There will be links to her social media pages and her channel in the video description below. Her name is LadyJenevia. She is an amazing content creator. She does amazing video essays, interviews. The interviews. There is some of the most charismatic things I've ever seen. So LadyJenevia, welcome to my channel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. Thank you for jumpstarting this hopefully now recurring series of movie reviews and discussions that we're going to start doing. It's really a help to me, honestly, genuinely, because I'm about to start taking some classes on the side of just other stuff. So it's making me more busy. So I wanted to make sure that I would still have a way to easily share my unsolicited opinions on movies and fiction, so that way I don't have to heavily script things. I can just get on a call with you and we can just go.
Yeah, no, I mean so what we're doing this kind of collab of we don't have a name for it yet, but there will be one, trust me, where we talk about movies that maybe I haven't seen before. We actually just did our first video on her channel about Atonement, and which for people who read my stuff or listen to my podcast, they know that that's not the genre I usually like. I don't watch a lot of normal stuff, whatever you want to call it. I have to be as fantastical and sci-fi as possible. Although it has James McAvoy in it, so I'm just like Professor X screaming his lungs out. You will get the reference when you see the video. So she picked the movie. There's a lot of films where we talked about privately where she went, you haven't seen this, you haven't seen that. I'm like, no, I'm very cultured and uneducated. So but that's no secret, that's public fact. So my movie that I recommended to her is a film that I feel a lot of people have slept on, and that is Unfriended, the 2014 horror glore that again I really love, that I feel like I'm like the only one on social media that talks about it. So so when we were planning this, I'm like, you need to watch Unfriended, and since this is your first time having seen it, so I guess we can start with that. What was your first impressions of it?
Well, I thought that it was adequate. And I'm not saying that to be passive aggressive. I'm more than capable of giving it the credit that I feel it deserves for certain things. In particular, with it having the premise that it has and the setting of being entirely on the computer, I appreciate that there was a real attention to detail in doing that and ensuring that it's presented the way it would actually look relative to that time period, because obviously we know the way that technology updates so quickly that even now, if we go back and watch it, you can see that it looks dated in a sense that the overall Apple layout wouldn't look like that anymore. They make those little revisions so you can always tell when something came out. But the glitches in the video quality, with it not being super perfectly HD and looking like you filmed it on a $10,000 camera. I don't know how much those studio cameras cost. It doesn't look like you just filmed it on some really expensive camera and then just copied and pasted it into the infrastructure of what the Skype layout of that time would be. Because even I don't know if this isn't really a spoiler, I can say this. So I have press screeners for Apple TV. I can see their releases before they're released to the general public. So I was watching season 2 of The Morning Show. I've seen the whole thing. It's really good. It's really dramatic. Everyone watch it when it comes out. And there's a part where you have two characters that are on a call together, and I think it's supposed to be FaceTime. And the video quality, it's so perfectly pristine, and it's just copied and pasted into, this shape of the phone. And I'm just going, never in my life, I don't care how much money you have, the phone quality, it doesn't look like that,
Nope.
It's not like it ruins the story or anything like that, but I just mean that when you have a movie like Unfriended where the entire premise is on the computer, I appreciate the attention to detail that clearly was taken to make sure that everything looked the way that you would expect it to look during that year on those devices, and the glitches, and sometimes the audio doesn't perfectly flow and things glitch. They didn't overdo it because you want to make sure that the audience can still follow what's happening. But yeah, I appreciated that. So
yeah, because I got the MacBook Air that I still have. I got it in 2014 as well. So like it was funny seeing for example when the Skype profiles and the YouTube profile was still with the squares, and now it's because now we have the circles and so on, and so I think it was very clever in that regard that for 2014 and maybe at least 15 and maybe 16, I think the circle thing started coming in it wasn't that long ago that we started getting it everywhere, but yeah, no, something I think people talk about, the people that actually do give attention to this film, is just overall fuzz on the horror slash in this case I don't think it's found footage, because it's not like someone an outside viewer picks up this computer and is like, oh, look at this 1 hour disaster of a Skype call. But what is your thoughts on the horror slash found footage genre in general, as because they're kind of, especially from Blumhouse, they're everywhere these days.
I don't know if I have a strong opinion on it, as far as it's not my favorite type of horror, but it doesn't mean that I think that it doesn't have a right to exist. I think that for a film like Unfriended, where it's clearly being made under certain financial constraints, I think that it's a good way to jumpstart you trying to be a person who's making movies or appearing in movies when you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of resources, and you're just trying to get yourself established so that you can work your way up to securing the resources that you have. So I don't want that to sound demeaning, like, oh, it's only there to be a stepping stone. But for me personally, I think I tend to prefer horror that is... I like a variety of horror. I like the smarter psychological stuff. I like the artistic stuff. I really like horror that has really great social commentary. So, the original Stepford Wives film, the new Candyman film, Jordan Peele has done great horror as well. So stuff like that tends to be more, if you ask me, pick my favorite horror stuff, it's usually more so in that area. So I don't really know if I have a strong opinion on it. So I'm more lukewarm on it. Like this movie is not something that I would have chosen. It was very much, I asked you, okay, what do you have a strong opinion about that you think would make for a good discussion? So yeah, it was very middle of the road for me, where it's like, oh, what are you going to rate it on Letterboxd? I was like, 3 stars. It's adequate. I don't have major gripes with it, but it doesn't move me. You know what I mean? It's very like, okay, I see what you did. Good job. I'm probably never going to watch this again.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. But, full credit to the people who tried to do something different with it. Because you do have found footage. There are certain found footage films that are very much important milestones in the history of horror as a genre. Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity, where it doesn't matter whether or not I love it or not, because it's undeniable the impact that they have on the genre and the fact that a lot of people respond to it. Because if people weren't responding to it, then they wouldn't turn into these giant hits that then the studios that own them try to keep milking beyond the point of them being worth watching. But that's another conversation entirely.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know that the last traditional found footage film that I saw that was, and I don't think a lot of people have heard of this one, but it's called the upper footage, where it's kind of like they were it was marketed as like it's based on real events, where it was these socialites that had basically accidentally got a girl killed, and it falls and try to figure out what to do with the body and so on, or what they're gonna do with the police or whatever. So, and there's this guy filming the whole thing, and it ends very, very painfully. But with Unfriended, it's really like kind of like going into the mind of a teenager and seeing what happens when because we can, if we take it as a metaphor, the Laura spirit, and spoiler alert, I guess, for a 7-year-old film, but Laura, it could be regarded as a troll in many ways, but just the idea that it is, because I'm sure probably people who were watching the film would go in, well, just hang up, just Skype call or whatever. But
I've seen those complaints. I think that all things considered, the film did a good job of establishing why they're not hanging up, because it's very easy when you're the outside party just viewing a movie to say, well, why don't you just do this? But the thing is that when you're on the receiving end of it and your emotions are the ones that are running high, you're not performing at optimum cognitive performance. You are getting swept up in, and also they're supposed to be teenagers. I'm sure the majority of the cast is probably like 25, 30 years old. I'm just guessing. I don't know. I didn't check it.
No, you're right. Many of them were.
But that's typical. Of course you're going to do stuff like that. And I wouldn't feel right about them forcing child actors to be emotionally distressed for an hour and a half of just crying and screaming nonstop. I would much rather they get adults to do a story like that. But they clearly take you through step by step. Okay, at first they just think, oh, it's a technical glitch, or it's a prank call, or it's just some random hacker. They build their way to the point of them realizing how dire of a situation they're in, and by that point they're figuratively shackled to their computers of if you unfriend me, or if you delete me, or if you leave the computer, or if you turn the computer off, then someone's going to die. And by that point, people have started to die, so they know that the threat is not an empty one. So I don't really get that criticism. I don't think that criticism is fair to lobby against or to throw at this film, because I think that there's a time and place for you to be exasperated by, why don't you just do this thing in other movies? But for this one, I don't feel like that's a fair argument to make, because they clearly establish step by step why they're too deep in it that they can't get out. The hole has been dug so deep that there's no way out.
Yeah, because because I remember I was like in my early 20s when this film had come out, and I remember I was someone who had difficulties of just whenever trolls would go after me on Twitter or so on, that I couldn't just put down the phone. I felt the need to respond, be like, no, you're wrong, or you suck, or whatever. Or like when certain shippers, you know who you are, would go after me, I would have spent hours and hours and hours just fighting back. So, and it's definitely not easy to just that way go like, oh, just turn off or just log off, because that is how toxic and possessive the social media online world is today. That because in these cases, with Val, for example, she obviously got said something that, because we never see what happens to her, because she's first they spent like 10 minutes with her and Jess fighting about take down those Facebook photos, but like it wasn't me. But like again, they keep going and going, but then like see she gets Laura or Billy sends her something that clearly is blackmail, and yeah, so like it is not that easy, and I think that's something that I wish that's something that I wish more people would pick up on when watching or talking about Unfriended, because like yeah, okay, sure, I get that it is another type of melodramatic horror, but also I think it's one of the more clever ones because again like, and it's not just because it takes place on Skype, but it kind of like really drives home the point of in that in that instant moment where you start getting sent like upsetting screenshots or something that or in oh my god, Blair's case, she gets sent the video of where it's revealed that she is actually the one that posted it. That she's the one who posted that Laura picture, Laura video, and then just seeing all the like again like that's how spot on the MacBook was, because like, you get started getting all the notifications and like, and that's the thing. This movie does not have a score. They did the filmmakers were using the computer sounds, whatever songs were playing on Spotify, and then also like when they were downloading software and so on. And I'm like, why am I so afraid of a MacBook getting heated now? Because like it feels like okay, Laura is getting closer and closer. So I wish that those technical aspects would be celebrated more, but
I feel like one of the film's greatest weaknesses are the characters because, well, I think it depends. I don't know all of what was going through the filmmakers' minds when writing or directing and creating the movie, but if I was supposed to be emotionally invested in the characters, I will very clearly state that I was not at any point. I didn't feel anything about them. I didn't take it as some tragedy when their friendships are being torn apart or when they're when they're watching their friends lose their lives. I didn't really feel much about that because I think because of the style that they've gone for, you don't really get to have that kind of opening exposition, emotional connection thing that you have in most movies of trying to get the audience to emotionally connect to the characters so that you feel something once they start to go through all the bad things that are going to happen to them in the horror movie. It's, like they're just all kind of loud and rude and annoying and very quickly they're bickering with each other. But the thing is like you never really felt their emotional connection. So you don't feel like anything has been lost once things start coming to light about, oh, well, it turns out you did something really awful to me. And now I'm finding that out and now I'm really upset. And I'm just going, okay, how many minutes are left? Like, I don't care. I think what I appreciated about the film was more of the technical details. And also, on a lighter note, did you notice the Easter egg that they had? Because Shelley Hennig is the lead actress.
Yes,
did you notice the tab, the Teen Wolf tab, where they don't even show the full like Teen Wolf. They just have Teen, but it's MTV logo. And I went, yeah, I see what you did there. I see that.
Yeah. No, I remember that because the first time I had seen a trailer was on the MTV YouTube channel.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I'm like, oh, but that's clever. But I heard more about the film. Like, well, it was through a parody trailer from a content creator whose name we are not gonna say because screw that guy. But no, I did see like the clever Teen Wolf, like also like because like when I've seen this film maybe about 17 times at this point. That's like if there's just something like very possessive with this film in good way. Yeah, I will agree with you. The characters, not fully invested in them. I was invested in the conflict and saying that, okay, maybe these 6 friends were definitely not meant to be friends if they were capable of doing these things to each other. Like, I mean, at the end where Blair says, she puts the blame on her boyfriend, and that shot of him just glaring into the camera, and then just getting the knife in his eye, like that was the one when I got thrown off, because when Ken got his hand into the mixer, so that had already been spoiled to me in the trailer, I think. And also Jess's death was very gruesome, because
Did you like the ending?
I think it's justified, but I also think there's a lot of things that you have to start asking then, like, okay, so what was Laura, like, was this really Laura, or was this a mental breakdown of Blair that the guilt was eating up on her? And I think she definitely deserved to be punished. But also, I've heard rumblings that there has been like alternative endings to this film, because I know the sequel, Unfriended Dark Web, hopefully, which maybe that will be a film I recommend at some point, because it's very different from this one. But I heard there were different endings to this one, but I don't know if that's true or not. But like, I like it, but I also have questions about it. Did you like it?
No, but when I say I don't like the ending, there's a very specific thing in the ending that I don't like, which is the very, very last thing, which is that she gets off the computer and there's some sort of demonic spirit or an evil ghost, or I don't know what it is, but something attacks her, so you have the one last rar before the credits roll. Because to me, when I really think about thematically what the film is trying to address, of the consequences of your actions and the consequences of stuff being put onto the internet and being filmed and recorded digitally, when you think about, okay, how that translates beyond just this one tiny moment of what's happening in the story, in the heat of the moment, I think that there would have been something a bit more powerful about having your final girl survive everything, but she now has to live with having been the cause of the first death, which was the inciting incident of the story. But now she also has to live with all the other deaths of the people that were on the call with her. And everyone on the internet now knows, I mean, maybe they don't know about the supernatural stuff involving the deaths of the other people, but she will now have to live with everyone at least knowing about the first one, because the video that gets revealed in full of her having been the one to film the girl whose name I don't remember because everyone was the same
Laura.
in this movie to me. Yeah, Laura. I think that would have been a more powerful thing of like, okay, yeah, I think it would have been a cool subversion of, typically when you have the final girl, that's a horror trope of, there's usually a girl, she's usually a white brunette, and she is the last one to survive everything that happens in a horror story. And you're supposed to usually celebrate the fact that she survived, or maybe you do it in a somber way, depending on how heavy of a horror film it was. But in this case, presumably when you think about the real world, it's like, okay, yeah, she would have been exposed for it, but if we're left to presume that she died some sort of violent death the way that all of her friends did, then she's now going to be a martyr like everyone else, of like, oh, this, how young people dying young, it becomes a legend and a tragedy that everyone remembers that, instead of her having to live with the weight of everything that she experienced and everyone knowing this horrible thing that she did. I think that would have been a superior ending. I think the final scare, if you were to ask me to speculate, it feels more like a studio thing of like, you have to set up, okay, there's some sort of evil spirit that we can now make that evil spirit a thing that we can use in sequels to justify milking this if it does well financially, which a lot of films like these, they're so cheaply made that they have to do well financially. Just like, you just don't have to completely flop.
How much do you think this film was made for? Like, what if it's
Didn't
budget?
You say it was like $1 million?
Oh, I already spoiled that. Yeah, okay. It was
Yeah.
on a $1 million budget, and it made 64 million in the box office.
Yeah. And
Surprisingly, though, this
it's a
spirit
cheap
has nothing.
premise. So I mean, you can make more sequels and keep them cheap. So
Well, surprisingly, this Laura or Billy, whatever you want to call them, they have nothing to do with the sequel. Like I think that again, maybe that will be something we say for a future video, but
that sounds like studio decisions as opposed to creative ones. But
maybe I just know that like the thing that just threw me off so much was that when she started having her breakdown of like, oh look how happy we were, look how good friends we were, look, do you remember when we took this? And like Billy's just like, nah girl, we done, it's too late to apologize.
Yeah, but she's a teenager, you know what I mean? Like that's a very typical, when you're a teenager, things that, if you survive to become an adult, things that seemed really important at the time are not important. If you ask me to recall what was important to me as a high schooler, it's like I have no connection to me as a teenager or an adolescent. that whole time period just means nothing to me. I have no sentimentality for those periods of my life. As far as just tangible life experiences, no. Maybe the pop culture that I liked, there's stuff that I liked then that I still like now, but apart from that, no. And also the opening, I just didn't care for it. It was so just hammy, but not in a good way, horror schlock of, we're flirting via video call, but we're using a knife. Like, honestly, I was watching this, so you've got a guy and he's threatening her with a knife and it's meant to be flirting, and I'm just watching this and I'm just going, the caucasity, what? Why? Like, who was it? I forget. I think she said it. I think it was her line where she said, you're adorable and really sexy when you're violent. And I was just, imagine how tired I am. I was just watching this and I was like, oh God, please stop. And I was just going, I hope you're not expecting me to be emotionally invested in these people, because this is not working for me.
Absolutely not. Like, listen, like, these characters are all very problematic in many ways. Like, so, but yes, even though like I like seeing the maybe I just really love seeing them being tearing each other apart. Like maybe Billy is my favorite character here. I don't know. And if a psychologist wants to analyze me, you go for it. And then suddenly someone does a video of like, and body language video, whatever they're like, look when he puts his hand up when LadyJenevia is saying body language. That means that he actually agrees with her, but he's afraid to show. I don't know what they would do, but again, I'm not invested in his character. I was invested in the conflict and the mystery of it. Like by the end, by the end of it, okay, they're dead. I'm gonna go to Pizza Hut now, whatever. I'm just gonna live my life on as usual. But yeah, I guess that will be it for this part. So yeah, you can go to her channel. There, I was pointing at you correctly. I always forget what way to click, point at. Go to her channel to watch our Atonement discussion, and go subscribe to her, and all of her social stuff is in the description. And obviously, if you're new, subscribe to my channel, follow me on social media, and hit the notification bell on both our channels when you know that she goes live with new videos and when I go live with new videos. Whether it's me doing gaming or she's doing video essays or interviews.
I have one more thing to add about the movie. Okay. Another way that you can tell that it's dated is the fact that they're using Skype when people don't even use Skype anymore. They use Zoom. How we went through a whole pandemic and Skype lost their chokehold on the culture, that everyone just dropped Skype and started using Zoom or StreamYard.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I use StreamYard now for my podcast, and it's so much easier because you can basically edit as you do. You play with like if you have an intro theme, that you go to the discussion and then you do the outros. Like that way, I don't have to put it manually in it when I do it on Audacity.
Don't get on Skype group calls anymore.
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
I do Skype for certain interviews, but otherwise, I like Skype it, and I talk to some friends there. But streaming and Zoom all the way. But yeah, that's gonna be it. So I guess we'll see you on the next one.